Hi, welcome back to this episode of In the Margins. And today we're going to be talking about what to do for pre-conference. How do you get ready for a conference? As Emily said last week, we just came back from Railmakers and we wanted to offer something to our listeners to help them prep for conferences beforehand, to prep after, like what you do after. And this week we're going to be talking about what to do before. So I have 3 tips for you for when you're preparing for conference. The first one is connect with other attendees online.
Mm-hmm.
So generally you can find out who's going by going to the conference's social media pages. You can look at the comments. Generally they'll have some official hashtag. So you can click on that. You can use that too. I have a writer friend who did this before her conferences. She would, back when blogging was really big, she would kind of do a whole blog series and get people connected. And if it's your first time going to a particular conference, that can be gold because you don't always necessarily know anybody who's going to be there, unless you're, going with a buddy,
Mm-hmm.
which is always great. But if you're not, it's great to connect with those people online beforehand so you don't feel like you're just walking into a room of strangers and you already have a sense of belonging before you even go. The second tip I have for you for pre-conference prep would be to make sure to get your business cards or bookmarks. Bookmarks are awesome too. Printed. Don't be like me, who realized the week of the conference that I had no bookmarks and I had no business cards. But I do have a solution for you if that happens to you as well. Or maybe it's not in the budget for you to get business cards and bookmarks, and that's totally fine too. You can create a QR code on your phone. If I could find my phone, I would show you. But you can just jump on Canva. It's free, and you can create a QR code with a cool background. And if somebody is wanting your contact information, um, you can just hand them the QR code. They can scan it with their phone. Another bonus is a lot of times people are not like me. I know I mentioned in the last episode that I absolutely love getting physical bookmarks and business cards, but some people, they get a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking more so of like agents and editors. I mean, they probably just have people throwing cards at them left and right. So you having a QR code and letting them scan it ensures 2 things. Number one, they have your contact information right then, right there, and they're not going to lose it. And that's a big thing because, you could lose a business card. You can lose a bookmark. It can get stuck to the bottom of your bag and then they don't find it for 6 months. So QR codes are great. They're super, super easy to create, like on Canva. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, just Google it, YouTube it, and get a tutorial. I promise you, it is not hard at all.
I'll hop in here
Yeah.
too and just say, but and also make sure you do have, if you can, a few
hmm
personal business cards,
Yeah.
because I do say that because, like, I agree. I think that a QR code is amazing. Like, I saw that she had one for Railmakers. I was like, Kristen, you're amazing. Because it's so smart. Like, it totally, and it does save you money. And I think that's going to be best for connecting with people. Now, with agents and editors, they do tend to like physical things.
hmm
And I'm not going to speak for them, but I just know from my past experience is that you sit down, and if they like what they see, they're not only going to want to keep your materials, which we'll get to in a minute, but they're going to want to have your card. I
Yeah.
have given away lots of cards in that instance.
hmm
So just know, even if you're only able to maybe splurge for like 25 cards or
Yeah.
something, like maybe from a local printer, like
hmm
even FedEx or something, if it's like, because I get it can be expensive, have something physical with you that you can hand
Yeah.
over or write it on your sheet or something like that.
And I would say too, make sure that your picture is on that card
Yes.
as well.
Hmm.
Because that really, when you're getting those business cards created, if you can have your picture on them, it helps a lot because
Your
again,
updated picture. That's
yes,
sorry,
updated.
a conference photographer speaking here.
Yes, yes. Because again, it goes back to agents, editors, and even your fellow attendees get so much sometimes they aren't going to remember, who is this Kristen Krumm person, if I don't have my image on there to like jog their memory. So if you're getting business cards made, make sure that your image, your headshot is on there. And then finally, the third tip that I have is make a plan for the classes that you're going to attend while you're at conference and how you want to spend your time learned.
Mm-hmm. What?
That's all I have to say about that.
Oh.
Just get on there and find the classes that you want to take and see which ones are going to best serve you and that you can get the most out of.
Yeah, and whether you're taking notes or whatever, figure out a way to do that in like the most efficient way. If you're
Yeah,
not pitching, there's a good chance that you'll be able to sit through whole classes and not miss anything, which I think is like so
yeah,
valuable. So,
yeah, yeah.
but if you are pitching, da da da, let's shift to the pre-conference prep for someone who is pitching. And those things that Kristen mentioned, I think are good for anybody attending, whether you're pitching or not. But we also wanted to give options for people who are, because at least for me, when I went to my first conference, that was kind of the big mountain that I had to like climb to get to the top of. I was nervous and I didn't know what I was doing. And that's okay. Like, that's all right. If you're there or you just went to a conference and that was your experience, totally fine. But I've got 3 things that I think could help you heading into a new conference, potentially this year or maybe next year. So the first thing is hone. I like these one word things. So basically, this is you honing your pitch. And we'll talk more, I think, about pitching in a future episode because there's just too much to get into for something short here. But yeah, and I won't even get into what a pitch is because that also is kind of, I mean, aside from saying that it's basically your entry level explanation to what your story is and what your book is about. They call it elevator pitch because it's something you can do in an elevator with someone else and say, hey, this is what my book's about. Do you like it? Now, to me, the key in doing a good pitch is to have it practiced, but not felt like it was memorized. So it's not like, my book is about blah, 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 right? Like, because nobody's going to really connect with that. I mean, they might, but probably not. You
Well,
see,
I mean, I guess if your book is told in the point of view of like a
a
robot
robot?
and
Yeah.
then you pitched it as a robot, that could be interesting.
Challenge accepted, and it's going to happen in space. No. Okay.
Yes.
No, but really practice with your friends, and it does not have to be your bookish friends. Actually, it's probably better if they're not, or maybe both, because it needs to come out as if you were sharing with your friend about what your book is about. And a lot of the times, what's going to happen is you're going to sit down and those nerves are going to be ratcheted up inside you, and it's just going to flood out of you. Like, there's nothing between you and the pitch and the agent or editor. And they're just like, what was this like fire hose of pitching? Let's not do that. Let's have it come out as naturally as possible. But this shifts into my second point, which is to do your research, or to keep it nice and simple, research. Basically, know who you're pitching, know this agent or editor and what they're looking for. Do not pitch to someone who is not accepting what you're writing. So don't go into, big agent number 1 and say, I am pitching a young adult fantasy if big agent number 1 only represents historical romance. Like, it doesn't fit. I don't know anybody who just does that, but you get what I'm saying here.
I will caveat that by saying that sometimes it is out of your control. So when they first post what they're going to be accepting, it is right in line with what you are pitching. And then 2 days before the conference, you look again, and all of a sudden they're not repping that anymore.
Mhm.
I would encourage you to still go ahead and that keep that time slot, because you can go in there and you can caveat by saying, hey, so I noticed that you're not repping this anymore, but if you don't mind, can I go ahead and pitch you, and you can give me some tips or can tell me how this is going to can be better.
Mhm.
Because chances are, I mean, they'll sit there and they will help you. And it also kind of takes, I feel like would take a little bit of the pressure off, because all of a sudden you're just an author talking to a lover of story, and that
Mhm.
lover of story is going to be able to like give you some pointers. So this coming from somebody who's actually never pitched, but still.
Well, I was just gonna caveat that to say yes, and there's a couple of options actually that you have. You might be able to swap out that appointment for
Hmm.
something else that would be better. Sometimes that's happened, and you never know if you give up that appointment. Again, I'm not necessarily recommending you do, but if you do give up
Right.
that appointment, someone else might have been looking for that agent
Yeah.
or editor. Now, to go along with what Kristen said as well, and this I still stick in with research, but it's really kind of its own thing, is when you sit down to pitch, and I'm getting too far into pitching here, but you're pitching a human being.
Yes.
You're not pitching a
Yes.
machine. You're not a machine. So in that, make sure that along with your research, let's say you do meet with this, let's say they're an editor and they're no longer accepting it. I think it would be totally acceptable to sit down and be like, well, I kept this appointment, and unfortunately, I see that you're no longer accepting what I was pitching, but I wanted to have a conversation with you. Now, that doesn't even have to include you pitching. It could be, what are you looking for? There might be another book that you have in mind or that you've already written that they might be interested in. Or it could just be, where do you see yourself going in, in the next, or the industry? Where's the industry going in the next few years? It could be any of those things. I think the key is if you're respectful and if you are honest with them up front and not just try to be like, well, I know they're not accepting this, but I'm going to win them over because my pitch is amazing. And it might be, but just be respectful of their time.
And make sure to keep yourself humble.
Yes, absolutely. We'll talk about pitching more because I think there's so much more we could say that would
Oh
be
yeah, yeah.
along the lines of this. So the last suggestion I have is to pretty. It doesn't fit into one word. Is to make it pretty. So this coming from a graphic designer, I can't help it, but whether it's your business cards or bookmarks or a combination of both of them together, and your one sheet, which we'll also talk about probably in another margins episode, make them look fire. I had to add that because it's fun to say. But make it look good. Don't just throw something together on a page. If you've got friends who are designers or learning about design and do a decent job, or maybe someone who's just like got mad skills on Word, whatever it is, make sure that what you're bringing to the conference is of the highest quality that you can make it. I've had a lot of fun doing one sheets in the past for myself because it's kind of just a sales page that sells your book in a sense. And it's something that you can offer to whoever you sit down with. So make sure you have that ready and with you. Not every agent or editor will look at it, but it doesn't hurt to have. And then in addition to that, make sure that you have like probably at least a sample chapter. Sometimes they like to read those things, but make sure that it's industry standard looking. So your 12-point font, double spaced, probably New Times Roman, that type of thing. So it looks nice. That would be my thing. So hone, research, pretty.
Great tips, great tips. We hope that you got something out of this episode and that you enjoyed listening to us talk. We can't wait for the next episode of The Margins, but until then, happy writing.